Good morning, everybody. Well, about a day back or so there, I went and I did a video about One for the Gardener, where I was talking about, sustainable food production for feeding the family and excess and abundance, and then what you might do with that abundance. Well, I had obviously described several possible ways. You can give the stuff away over the fence. You can donate it to the Salvation Army or something. You can turn around. You can start to sell it in the farmer's market. You can compost it. There's a lot of stuff that can be done. But I did discuss what I consider to be a very important factor connected to this, and that was difference between being consumers and being producers, and that you can put yourself in this position when you are overproducing for the family of becoming a producer in the eyes of the world. And when you cross that threshold, many things change. You may not be familiar with that if you haven't been there in the past, but so many things change. You're pretty much a ball bearing down a grease slot with a tax man when you're working for somebody else. But as an entrepreneur, you have the ability to almost legally not pay taxes, for instance, or to take advantage of numerous tax programs that are put forth by the government for the entrepreneur. Our entire economy, our whole society is built on the back of people that take money, invest money with ideas, and make money, okay? That's what the process is all about. Now, I have a long history of speaking, especially with younger people, but not necessarily always younger people, when it comes to money, business, plants, okay, that I get a real negativity. I get a real negativity about greenbacks out of some folks. I could kind of understand where they're coming from, because I've been there. Yeah, I've been on both sides of the fence. So I think I understand the story pretty well. That's why I'm talking about it. I used to clean pigeon coops. Yeah, for people. Yeah, take care of birds. Do a whole kind, whatever it took to hustle to keep money. Keep greenbacks. As a child, anyway, if you want power over your life, you had to have money. It was that simple. There wasn't too much of any other way you could do it. There were a whole lot of ways in Chicago of getting money. Out in the suburbs, money was a status. That's, how did you dress? What kind of car did you drive? How nice is your house? That was the first time in my life I was ever really confronted with this idea of status. Are you cool? I was not cool. No, I was not cool. And we did not have a tremendous amount of money or anything like that. So, I grew up still, pretty common and normal about things. Until I met my buddy Rick. I was in the corner of a music store, leaning on an amplifier with a Les Paul guitar in my hand and blowing my ears out playing the blues, and this guy walked in carrying a guitar case. Well, we met up, and it turned out that Rick's parents were wealthy. His dad ran Arthur Ruboff Incorporation in Chicago. They're the ones that lease all the big skyscrapers downtown. Yeah, so he was in that business. He had plenty of money. We're talking African safaris, whole rooms full of guns, big parties, lived way out in the country on a horse ranch, those sort of people. And that was the first experience for me. I'd never met people with that kind of money. And after hanging around Rick for a while, I decided these people are nuts. Yeah, I mean, the 40-year-old neighbor up in got busted for smoking pot and ran off with the neighbor's 16-year-old daughter to California. Stuff like this. They were just all nuts, every one of them. Every gun in the house was loaded. You had to be really careful if you picked anything up to make sure you check it thoroughly. There'd been gun accidents in the house because of all the loaded guns. His mother used to hide in the closet sometimes to find out what we were talking about. It's just the nuttiest thing. And I made my mind up right then and there. I said, man, if this is what money does to people, I don't want any part of this. And this was the 60s, and there was a whole lot of, communes and alternative forms of living and this kind of junk going on. So there was a leftist flow at that time, especially in the Back to the Land movement. And of course, I became part of that then shortly afterwards. And so I went through the whole hippie homestead thing with an outhouse, pumping water up out of a spring, using a hand pump, building my own houses, being off the grid, not having a job, on and on, heating with wood, and basically going back to a pioneer lifestyle, doing a lot of hunting and fishing. Yeah, and that was early on for me, and that persisted through most of my 20s. By the time I got into my 30s, and then kids were being born and all this stuff, I ended up on not only a regular job and running the farm, but then I ended up back of the band too. So I had 3 jobs after a while. I realized, it took me 10, 15 years, but after doing the hippie homestead thing, freezing off in northern Wisconsin, splitting firewood and growing potatoes and all that, shooting deer, I made my mind up that that's a harsh way to make a living. It is. It has some satisfactions to it, but that without money in this society, you have almost no power. And so I was at the will and the whim of the wind, basically, as far as that's concerned. I could do what I was doing to a point, but only to a point, because I didn't have enough cash flow to do the kind of development that I wanted to do on the farm, for instance, So it took a little while. I gradually began to accept the idea that if you rail against the economy and you say it's bad and you refuse to join it, you get the short end of the stick. You don't get any advantages from it. If you realize that we're in a country with a capitalist-style economy, and if you join them rather than trying to fight against them and complain that they're evil, you suddenly find you get the advantage of the society. There are tremendous advantages to people in this society that invest and make money. Now, I see a greenback the same way I see a corn seed. I really don't see them any different at all. I think sometimes people who rail against money are probably really talking about debt, because debt is where control is at in the economy. If you're deeply in debt, you're going to be doing whatever it is that they ask you to do to keep yourself from going under. Now, if you are debt-free, the greenbacks are an entire another story. And I watch how people spend their money. We get so hung up on the latest device, the new cars, fancier clothes, stylish stuff, things that don't really matter very much in life. You take a look at so much of what we spend our money on, we waste tremendous amounts of it on next to nothing. So a greenback is an intelligent thing only if it has a brain as a guidance system. And so if you look at your money Rather than being evil, the root of all the evil, stay away from this stuff. If you look at it instead and go, this is garden seed, man. You go on out there, dig yourself a hole in the right place, stick that greenback in the hole, fertilize it nice. It grows. It makes a crop. And so, at least in my world, money that I bring in is not a liability. It's a tremendous asset, because the money that I bring in, the places that I put it, they give me back more money, you see. So greenbacks brought into my life are the seed for making a crop of greenbacks. I don't see any difference, again, between harvesting dollars and harvesting corn or harvesting cabbage. The process works the same. The type of soil you use is different, okay? The sort of thinking process, the parameters involved with getting a dollar to grow is different, but the process is identical. And, well, whereas I could rail against corn, I could say, oh my God, they turn corn into corn syrup and it ain't good for any of us. They farm the soils in the Midwest to death, and the mud is going down the Mississippi and washing out to the Gulf of Mexico, and the fertilizers are causing, death of the ocean, and on and on and on and on. I can say corn's evil. Corn's evil. Well, corn's not evil. Corn's a good grain. It's a fine crop. I love corn. Depends on what you do with it. It all has to do with the thought process that's involved with how you grow the corn or how you invest the money. What do you use that money for once you get it? If you're looking at it as going, oh, I'm just so far in debt, all I can do is I cannot even dig myself out, and all these bills, or if you aim towards a life where you find yourself nearly debt-free, any greenbacks you bring in are a bonus, and if they're used intelligently, they make more greenbacks. And what they create for me, freedom, liberation from the system. Yeah. I use greenbacks to liberate me from being on the treadmill, and the way I set myself up to acquire them takes so little effort on my part. This is not like running a job, okay? Not really. I mean, I get stuff I got to do around here. Yeah, I'll start potting the stuff. I got to clean seed, and there's all sorts of things I do. But I have to do something anyway, because if I didn't, I'd get bored, My life wouldn't be as satisfying. If I didn't engage all these people all the time over here, I might be lonely. There's all sorts of aspects to it. Most of what I engage as I'm trying to acquire greenbacks has a lot of other positive advantages. Okay, step anybody's toes or hurt anybody's feelings, who feel money is evil and we should stay away from it. I have a real problem with people that say that kind of thing just because they mutter about it, but there ain't a single one of them I ever met that has an alternative. I mean, barter's fine, right? But we moved into currency and economics beyond barter thousands of years ago because barter has inherent problems in it that it cannot be used as a universal means of transaction. On the other hand, a greenback can. So you are cut out of and divorced from all the power of the society and our world's economics when you refuse to engage the greenback in a positive way. Yeah. You're an American. Love your dollar. That's all I can tell you, man, because not loving it isn't going to get you anywhere. No, it's not going to get you anywhere. The day that I hear somebody come back to me and come up with just one idea that makes good sense as far as how would we get rid of currency. Yeah, if you can come up with a way that can be done, well, I'll be glad to hear it. And you best put a copyright or something on it before you open your mouth, because if it was a good idea, it'd be so valuable. I mean, because it doesn't matter when you're talking about money whether this is, plastic, whether it's, ones and zeros in the internet, Amazon never sees my plastic. Amazon never sees my greenbacks. All they ever see is ones and zeros traveling around the internet when I'm buying stuff from them. It's all money. It doesn't matter what its form, but it's all money. And so that's not the answer either. And Bitcoin is not the answer either, okay? It's a big problem. And if I was to look at two currency out there and say, which one is useful to me? Well, I'd actually go for dollars instead of Bitcoin. Put an S on the front of that, as far as I'm concerned. And because the dollar's a reliable thing. It's got a whole lot of smart people out there trying to keep it well regulated. It's a pretty good deal. Plus, I don't do currency trading, see, okay? I don't get involved in that aspect of anything, and that's what they do with Bitcoin. That's just simply a sort of a currency trading type platform. And so that ain't it either. And it's, again, no matter how you look at it, it's just another form of money. But I wouldn't want to be spending the currency they use in North Korea, and I'm not interested in spending Bitcoin either. Okay. Hopefully that got the point across. There's nothing wrong. Just use your money. Money is a valuable thing. Money gives you freedom. You just have to set yourself up so money is not a ruling factor in life. When money becomes a dominating factor in your life, you do have a problem, and no wonder people want to get away from it. But again, even if you could get away from it, what are you going to do next? You ain't going to barter for a gallon of gasoline for your car. No, you ain't going to barter for a set of solar collectors. Tesla don't take barter for Tesla power walls and so on and so forth, So, hang loose, folks. Aloha.